If you enjoy my videos, like, comment, and consider subscribing. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Bits and Knits. Today's tutorial, we're going to make this really beautiful crocheted cocoon cardigan. So in the last video that I posted, I did a tutorial on this stitch that I used for the cardigan. I'll put a link to that video in the top right corner. So firstly, we're going to need a needle, a tapestry needle, about 4 stitch markers, and I have a 3.75 millimeter hook that I used, and the yarn that I used was the Yarn Bee Rainbow Rhapsody in the Obsydian Daydreams. This is one of my favorite yarns. It's really pretty the way it changes colors. It is a number 1 fine yarn, so you don't have to use this yarn or a yarn this thin. You can use whatever yarn that you want. So I'll give you the dimensions and you can use any yarn that you want. But if you want to make this exact cocoon cardigan, this is what I used with the 3.75 millimeter hook. But it's worth noting that to get the edges straight for this stitch, or at least this yarn also, I had to put one more just half double crochet in at the end. And it seemed like that's what made my edges to stay very nice and straight. Alright, so I'm just going to fasten off here. Alright. So let me get set up on the floor with this so that we can sew this together. Alright, so as you can see, I've laid it out on the floor. The color change is quite nice with this yarn. I really liked how it turned out. Here we have, it's 45 inches long, and I've got it 33 inches wide, or excuse me, 45 inches wide and 33 inches long. So from here, we're just going to fold it in half. Alright, so I folded it in half, and then I got my stitch markers and my tape measure, and from the middle where you folded it, from here, 7 inches is going to where you're going to place your first stitch marker. So that's going to be the armhole. This right here will be left open for your arm to go through. Right, so 7 inches. And then I placed another stitch marker at the corners, so that's connecting these two pieces together with the stitch marker to hold it in place. And then the same thing on the other side, measure from the center in 7 inches, place a stitch marker, and then another stitch marker at the corner. So from this first stitch marker to the corner stitch marker is where we're going to sew shut. Next, we can open up from the top, so just grab the top layer and flip it up. Right, so you can see here is where we're going to sew from this stitch marker to this stitch marker, and same on this side. And then on the ends here, going to be the armholes. Alright, so I have my right side arm that I'm going to sew or stitch from one stitch marker to the next. And then here is where my armhole will be. You could always make your armhole bigger if you like. I'm just putting 7 inches from the top down. So I'm going to start at this corner, and how I've decided I'd like to connect these 2 pieces is with the crab stitch. So I'm going to start in the corner through both pieces, and I'm just going to pull up here and then chain 1. So just pull that tight here. Alright, so if you don't know how to do the crab stitch, I'll put a link to my video on how to do the crab stitch in this top right corner. And working backwards in crab stitch, you'll be working from this corner up to where your armhole is going to be, and just making sure that you're going through both of these pieces to connect them together. So go ahead and pause the video, and I will meet you when we get there. Alright, so I've made it up to my stitch marker, and I'm just going to take my stitch marker out. So now I'll just grab my scissors and go ahead and snip my yarn. Pull that on through. Okay. So as you can see, we've got the first side done. So this was the right side, and then we're just going to end up putting this inside out. So you can see it really connects it nicely. If you wanted to sew it, you could sew it together. I like using this crab stitch here. Connects it quite nicely. And we've got our first armhole, and we'll work on the other side. So go ahead and do the other side. Pause the video, and we'll meet you when we get there. Alright, so I have both of my sides sewn together. So I've completed both armholes. And what we're going to do next is add some ribbed edging to these armholes. So we're just going to attach our yarn here. So pull that tight. And I like to sew some of the ends in with the stitches where I can. So if you're able to do that here, it'll just save you some time at the end. So what we're going to do is put in double crochets, and we're going to go through the front posts of these stitches. So first we're going to go, let's chain 2. So I have chain 2. And we're going to go in this first, let me zoom in for you. We're going to go in the post of this first stitch right here. So we're going to go behind and out the other side. Pull up our loop. Okay. And then we'll just do that again. Just going all the way around in that way, going behind each post here. Try to keep a fairly tight tension, especially if you're using this super thin yarn. And it can be difficult when you're working on the side of the work like this to space the stitches correctly. So just doing the best you can with that. So we're just going to go all the way around this armhole, doing that exact thing all the way around. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to, and we'll meet you at the end of this row. Alright, so I've gotten to the end of the row. So I'm here and I'm going to, after I put in my last double crochet, I'm going to put 2 more in this same space. So that's 3 double crochets into this last space. And then I'm going to slip stitch over to this first double crochet that I put in. Okay. And then we're essentially just going to do that again. So we're going to chain 2, and we're going to make a double crochet into the front post from this row below. We'll make another double crochet in the front post into the next stitch. We'll make another front post double crochet, another front post double crochet. Okay, so we're just going to follow this all the way around. So again, pause the video and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Alright, so I've just completed the second row. I did my last front post double crochet here, and I will slip stitch back into that first half double crochet. We'll slip stitch into the top of this chain 2. There we go. Alright, and we're going to do that one more time. Again, chain 2, and make your front post double crochets all the way around until the end of the row. Again, go ahead, pause the video. I'll meet you when we get there. Alright, so I just completed my last front post double crochet, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 2. So from here, just go ahead and cut the yarn and do the exact same thing on the other armhole. So just doing those front post double crochets around 3 times, so 3 rows of front post double crochets.